Welcome to the App Show. It's a weekly webcast, showcasing the world's most innovative individuals, businesses, and cloud accounting apps. My name is Will Lopez. I'm the founder of AdvisorFi.com, virtual accounting firm in South Florida. I'm one of your co-hosts. Also co-hosting with me is Blake Oliver, owner of HPCCPA.com, based out in California. And we have our Aussie friend here, Mr. Guy Pearson, founder of Practice Ignition. You can actually go to his website, ignitionapp.com. Maybe, Blake, if you can drop in a link, you can, that way people can kind of check out that.
That's practiceignition.com, but thank you, sir. Our Twitter handle is Ignition App.
Yep, Ignition App. Actually, here in the Blab Circle, so we actually have 4 squares. You can actually see our websites there. You can also see Guy Pearson's website as well. So, Guy, man, thanks for taking time out of your busy day to talk shop in the cloud accounting world.
Oh, no problem. It's an absolute pleasure to be here, mate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wouldn't miss it.
So before we get to Guy and his agenda, just a few technical notes. If you would like to send a message, you can type anything you like into the chat. Should be on the lower right of this screen. So if you'd like to just say hi, you can do that. Let us know we're not all alone here in the cloud. You can also tweet or post a live link to this blab on Facebook. That's over on the left-hand side. And I believe because of the way these webcams work, I have to point to my right, and that goes to the left, right? Does that look to you guys like I'm pointing to the left? Okay. So there's
pointing in the right direction.
Good. So there's Twitter, Facebook options to share with your friends. We really appreciate if you do that. And if you would like to pose a formal question or an informal question, a question of any kind to Guy or any of us on this blab, you can do that by typing /Q into the message field and then type your question. It goes into the question queue so that we can see it and we can put it onto the screen. That's pretty much it. Any questions? If not, let's get started.
I'm going to give a huge shout out not only to you guys, but right now I'm actually sitting in an accounting firm and I'm going to post out the link. It's a good buddy of mine, Ben Walker and Inspire CA. And so if I turn my thing, you'll actually see one of his banners. And if we go that way, there's actually a cafe and a bar over there. So they've basically built a co-working space in the bottom of their accounting office.
Oh, I heard about that.
So huge props to them for helping me out. I had breakfast with one of our investors this morning and had no time to get here. It's 8 a.m. bright and early. I've had about 4 coffees. I'm wired and I'm ready.
Well, it's 2 p.m. here, so I'm hitting my slump, so I'm drinking my coffee as well. And we have to give credit to Will for joining in at 5 p.m. Eastern time. You should be having happy hour, Will.
I should have been gone an hour ago, man. I'm missing happy hour.
So my understanding from Will is that you have some topics you'd like to cover with us today, Guy.
Yeah, so Will was kind enough to put me on sort of a 3-part agenda. So today I wanted to talk about a few things and I'd love to get some feedback and some questions. And this is my first blab, so bear with me. But around sort of how people onboard and deal with engagement management in their firms, how they deal with the renewals. So it's great to get a client on board, but it's really, really important to make sure that you've got that being reviewed on a regular basis to make sure that A, you're profitable so you can continue to service that client, but B, making sure, and most importantly, making sure that you're delivering value for your client. Dealing with things like scope creep management, and then flipping it and starting to realize that your engagements or how you do your contracts can actually start to be a data mine for your clients, so that you can understand what services your clients are taking up and really providing a central hub. Now, obviously, this is sort of sponsored, I guess, by Practice Ignition, if I can say that. But the idea is, so we can, Practice Ignition does all of those things, which is great. We also have payments connected, but I really wanted to sort of just open up and talk with you guys around having a sort of what it means to have a central core for your business. And I know that Will felt this pain so much that he went and built his own bespoke system on his website at AdvisorFi, and I love Will for it because it kind of proves that this was a problem. And sadly, Will had sort of invested some decent capital into that. So he's sadly not a customer of PI, but as you can see by his t-shirt, he's gladly waving the flag that this is a problem that all accounting firms have. So I might post the agenda, and this is just kind of what we talked about. That doesn't really go out well in the chat.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
sort of what we agreed upon to cover off. So Will, maybe you can explain to me what we're looking to achieve and how we do this inside
Yeah,
Blab.
absolutely. So just so everyone knows, right here in the Blab circle, you actually see our topics down in the bottom right-hand corner: onboarding, renewal, client segmentation. So we're going to talk with Guy, who really has just kind of alleviated all these problems. And, and so I want Guy to share his awesome insight, because Guy has built basically, as far as I'm concerned, the holy grail with running a virtual practice. Guy is correct. I did build exactly what Guy had built. Had I known Practice Ignition was around, I would not have built what I have. I would have used Practice Ignition for onboarding clients, for recurring billing, for automating that whole process. And so, the first pain point is onboarding. So anyone who owns a virtual accounting firm or virtual bookkeeping firm or virtual anything in the professional space, onboarding is probably the most manual process. I came from a traditional firm where the process was, client comes in, partner creates a Word doc, all this back and forth, probably about 10 emails, all said and done, and then the client hasn't done anything really besides sign a document. So, that's where Practice Ignition has alleviated the onboarding, and that's what my desire was at my firm, to do the same. That is, I wanted people to go to my website. I wanted people to click a button to add plans to an existing set of plans, and then onboard that feature through, let's say, customized documents or something like that. So, that's what I would add to the conversation. Blake, you guys are also considering heavily using Practice Ignition.
Yeah, so we're not current users of Practice Ignition, but we are definitely looking at it very closely, which is why this is very relevant to me, and I'm very happy to be here with Guy on this series. Currently, we use a combination of HubSpot CRM and PandaDoc. So they're not the one thing that we're really missing, I suppose, right now is the connection between invoicing and the engagement letters, and also payments, because we have to do all three of those things in different systems, in PandaDoc, and then in Xero, and then in our ACH payment processor. So I'm interested, always in any way that we can, simplify onboarding for the clients, for our firm, but also for them. So I guess I should say that in my previous firm, we built that system using a combination of Podio and PandaDoc. And I would say that the one thing I've learned is that having the client do as little as possible in the signing of the service agreement and getting the payment information, I think, is very, very, very helpful. If you can reduce those 10 emails to 1 or 2, you're going to have a much more successful onboarding process, at least the beginning of it. The rest is up to actually implementing, the different applications, but that's sort of another matter.
Guy, how have you merged all those worlds in PI?
So that's a really good point. So I'll just say, similarly to the guys, I used to work in mid-tier, and then I used to run my own accounting firm, which is a link in there. So a lot of, I guess, the why of what we built is why we built Practice Ignition. So right now, you're not saying what our end goal is. So I'll start with that just quickly, and then we'll get into what we've built. So my personal goal is to help small business owners get better information faster to make better decisions. So that's our why. That's how why is I've got a goal about utilitarianism, which is the greatest good for the greatest number. And then the what, I built an accounting firm to help businesses one at a time. And we wanted to build a software platform to enable that collaboration and access to information faster. Now, what we've built with Practice Ignition right now is the accountant side. So the contract engine, which can link to third-party systems to deploy workflow. And so when you're building a proposal, you can line up different job templates and workflows so that the clients, when they accept or if they comment on the engagement, that's all tracked as well. But when they accept, it goes and creates the client, creates the contact, and deploys the jobs. In the systems we do connect to, you can have those jobs assigned to different people or launched from Practice Ignition. You can have different recurring schedules. There can be different job templates. The most important thing is that it's all tied back to your contract. And I'll explain why in a second. The second thing we do is connect to invoicing solutions. So we do the same thing, go and create the client and create the contact. But then we pull back the success of the invoices so you can track the jobs that are being currently worked on, the invoices and those things essentially inside Practice Ignition as well. And then we also have payments, which right now is full suite in the US and Australia. And it's ACH and credit card, or if you're in Australia, direct debit and credit card. Effectively means the same thing. And we've got beta for credit cards in the UK and Canada and New Zealand coming soon. But effectively what it means is that your client, instead of having an engagement letter, which you've got no visibility over in that initial onboarding, they're dealing in something that they can accept from their phone, most importantly, in meeting with you. And they can even put their ACH or their credit card details down in that form. And so based on the billing scenarios, you're collecting that, or we're collecting that money from the clients, transmitting it over to you and actually going and reconciling your ledger against that invoice as well, whether that's in Xero or QBO at the moment. So what you end up with is in that core, like there's a lot of admin. You're not doing any of that manually. Ongoing, we push invoices every month. We take payments every month or every quarter or whatever your billing schedule is, and we reconcile it. So debtors cease to be a thing. And then the interesting part is when you deal with scope creep. So one of the things that killed me at my old firms and has killed, we've talked with mid-tier or regional firms and big fours, and like, what's the biggest problem with profitability at your firm? And they're like, we get stung every year on clients changing their minds on what they want, and we don't tell them that we're going to charge them more, and then we negotiate on the final bill and we write off cash, right? So we've got a scope creep management feature, and Tom from our team has done an amazing job of writing some really great blogs on scope creep management from his background. But effectively, you click edit, you send out a change of scope, or what do they call it, a change order. The client receives the fact that it's a change order and change of scope with what's changing. Same process. If they already have ACH or credit card, it's very much like an e-commerce store. Verify that you want it to come, the money to come out of this account or change. They sign off. They can also ask questions, which is on the audit trail. When they hit accept, if we are connected to workflow and invoicing, we go and change absolutely everything, including the payments, and you kind of track the whole change of scope all the way through the process without any administration, and that's huge.
Yeah, and quickly, shout out to GrowthWise here. She said, reduced our renewal time by 70%. Reduced our onboarding time by 50+%. And she's absolutely right. That renewal time and that onboarding time is huge. I'll share. Once again, we built what we built for a reason. Had I known Practice Ignition was around, I would have not built what we currently have in place. But we did a YouTube video where we just share some information. Guy loved it, went to our website, bought a plan just because he saw a YouTube video. I mean, onboarding process is tremendous, and you can do that with Practice Ignition because it captures all of that stuff. So he was a new business owner and just wanted to work with us.
And isn't it true that you can connect Practice Ignition to your website and sell plans? It's totally self-serve, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we don't go through to the checkout on the site. So Will's offerings are very, very structured, and Will works at AdvisorFi in a particular way. We started off like that, and we got a lot of feedback that accountants were worried that their clients wouldn't know what they did and didn't need.
Right.
What they did want to do is allow them to choose an indicative selection of services that they did want as a starting point.
Right.
And so when the client fills out the form, and if you I can give you a link to a sample one so that you can play with it. I'll find it and put it in the Blab chat. But my firm, Interactive Accounting, that I still sit on the board of, they use it. And what it was is it's, you got all these people coming to your site, which is fantastic. But if all they can do is fill out a contact us form, as awesome as that is, you then have to follow up. And let's face it, accountants aren't the best at following up things like that. So what we were trying to do is get it into a system that they use on a day-to-day basis so that the lead drops in, email notification goes to the partner, and they can start flowing back through the system. But I think the real importance and where we're heading to, and I think the next Blab that we're having, we'll talk more about the analytics of sort of these. What it means is you've got a centralized database with all your contracts, all your business relationships. And even in our existing structure, you can filter down and look at all your clients that have a 1099. Now, forgive me, I'm an Australian accountant, so I don't know what the other things are, but let's say you wanted to tag all your clients that are in the property industry. You can do that in PI and go down and have a look at all the engagements and figure out the dollar value. Everyone that has if we're talking zero, everyone that has a zero subscription. You can look at everyone that has an annual systems audit. You can look at people who don't have an annual systems audit. It all sits within the one place. Now, having grown a firm, I can tell you the most common way and the easiest way to actually grow your revenue, as well as impress and please your clients, is to think about what clients currently have and what business structure they're in, and even just what business they do, and then think about ways that you can improve on that. But if we're all recording time, and Will, I'm sure this happened at your old firm, pretty much every client's time went to annual financials and tax prep. Like, there was no segmentation in a practice management system. There was no ability to try and figure out who's in the same industry on a firm level. It was kind of just sporadic crap data everywhere, and you never sort of thought, oh, they don't actually have let's use 1099. They don't have a 1099, but maybe they should. Maybe we should talk to them about it. Like, there's no sort of prompting for that sort of thing, and I'm sure that 1099 is exactly the wrong thing to use. It's just the most recent tax experience I've had with the US filing that not so long ago. Thankfully, we ended up not having to file, but it was just a complete learning curve for me. But it's all about adding that value, and we grew our firm by listening to our clients, looking at what they needed, and trying to figure out ways that we could help a group of them together, and do some R&D on whether it was capital raising and the tax impacts and structures and what processes they need to go through. It might have been research and development grants that we have here in Australia. Who's eligible, who's not, why not? Blogs on that. And then, asking our clients, if this is something you're interested in, let us know, and we can get you all together and do an education series on online or in person in an event. And we'd actually increase in software we call it contribution margin, but we'd increase our revenue from existing client base as well as adding on new clients, because we actually said that we did these things. It was absolutely huge. And so what PI gives you the ability to do is, at a glance, without having to pull down lists from the tax office or go into an Excel spreadsheet and try and figure out what clients have what services and what industry they're in, is have it all in one centralized place. And ironically, it's attached to where your billing is and your proposals come from. So obviously you can do some really good actions from there to actually suggest things to your clients and get them to sign on.
Yeah. And the thing that really, really appeals to me is, well, if I could just jump straight to scope creep, and we could just talk about that for a while, because I think that is a problem that every firm encounters, and it's a huge time suck administratively. And I don't think there's a lot of solutions out there that really address it, other than what I see in Practice Ignition. So, for us with our current software, yes, we have very good proposals. We have a pretty automated way of generating them, which works great for the initial proposal. But then what if the client wants to change something down the road, or wants to add a filing, or wants to increase services? Then we have to generate a whole new proposal. So it's also very difficult to make sure that every single time when a service is added, that it definitely 100% gets billed for. I had situations in my previous firm where we would get everything set up perfectly, and then somebody would neglect to process the ACH, or perhaps the credit card would fail and we wouldn't follow up on it, or something like that. So I know that, actually, I'm really curious to know how Will handles that in his practice, the scope creep with his custom situation. And then maybe we can talk about how other firms deal with it that we know of, or how a Practice Ignition can help with that. Yeah,
I'll be honest with you. I still experience the scope creep issue. What I custom built is not as strong as PI. I think PI offers way better functionality than what I have built for my firm. The only thing that I did differently versus what PI did was I specifically built an onboarding tool specific to my pricing structure. And so that I didn't have to kind of go through this kind of back and forth type thing. So they can just pick a plan and check out. But all the data mining, all the connection, all the central hub that PI would offer, I unfortunately do not have. So my onboarding system is isolated from my central hub, collaborative dashboard or whatever with my clients. So, scope creep is an issue for us. And unfortunately, it's even though we've built our own technology, I have to attack it the way I do, just basically manually, and just make sure that, it's not creeping up on us, what ways for you guys? I mean, you guys at PI have just obliterated scope creep, or how do you guys handle that inside the application?
So there's a basic flow. So the really cool thing we've done is make it it's a pending change. Like if we break it down, so you can change the engagement. It might be just a price of a service. It could be adding a new one, could be taking one away, could be upgrading from if we go silver to gold plan, if we're talking sort of fixed fees. And what it does is because we link to workflow and because we link to invoicing and because we have payments built in, particularly if you've got all those integrations turned on, it goes out to the client. And so there's almost like an active proposal, which is the historical one. And then we've got the pending change. And this active proposal doesn't stop. So the active engagement, the workflows, the billing, invoicing doesn't stop until the client changes here. We've even got pro rata, which people just call catch up. So if you've enabled that, so let's say the change is going from $200 a month to a $500 a month standard service agreement for monthly financials and all those sorts of things. It'll actually even keep track of the catch up from the date of change. If they accept later, they'll actually get the upfront catch up as well. So the really cool thing is when it ticks over and the client signs off, everything just flows through and updates. It'll notify the team. Like it's not something that kind of sits in isolation. You can also track the status of things. So you can see whether or not the client's opened it, commented. If they comment, you would get notifications. But you can start to build filters inside our main proposal view around who's been sent something, opened it, looked at it, but not taken action. So you can start to drill down even to whether or not they've accepted an edited scope creep and whether or not they're even aware that it sits there, as opposed to, I sent you an email. I know there's tools that can tell them that you open an email, but whether or not they click through into the form. And a lot of firms sadly are still sending PDFs. So, who knows whether or not the client will sign
Excel
off.
Excel sheets, Word documents.
So I'm on the Xero Roadshow. I'm here in Brisbane, so I'm not in my hometown. I'm not in the office. I'm in a friend's office. But the killer was someone came up to me the other day and goes, actually, we still do Word docs and mail them. And I just irony is they use Xero with all those clients. They just haven't got their firm online.
Hand delivery.
Yeah,
we do special.
Personal. Yeah. Uber for engagement letters. I'm sure there's a business.
One of those owls from Harry Potter to deliver your engagement letter on a scroll.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I'll tell you what, if there's enough demand for that, we will build and train owls, but they will cost about $50 a delivery.
I mean, that might impress a client. So with the Word documents, the thing I can't get over is that don't these accountants who are sending Word documents and not even converting them to PDFs realize that the client could change the Word document, sign the engagement letter, and send it to you, and you have no idea that they've done this? It's not like you're comparing the two documents very carefully, especially if you have a multi-page engagement letter.
It's absolutely huge. Even scarier is what happens if you've got a master template on the server in your firm, if we're talking Word docs, and people have changed it so many times and accidentally saved on the master.
Yep.
Like, how do you know that your document's actually legal still? Yeah.
There's no way to verify that. For sure.
It scares the hell out of me. I mean, we all hope that no client will ever come back and, look to read the terms and conditions and seek, compensation or any of those sorts of things. But, we're business advisors as accountants. Yeah. We need to have our T's and C's, our privacy policy with internet apps, and our, what happens when the shit hits the fan, all on these documents, and really easy to read, but also to make sure that they're consistently valid and easy to update, and then understand who's sending them out so that you can go back to someone if something does go wrong, and if they've changed something or put something in that's not in line with company policy.
Yeah. So I have another question.
Sure, man.
Going out of order here.
Perfect.
And this one is specific to rollovers and renewals. So very relevant to my firm, because currently at HPC, we do engagements that are ongoing monthly, but we don't set a term for those engagements.
Yep.
So when we originally looked at Practice Ignition a while back, and I may have looked at it when I was Cloudsourced Accounting before we became part of HPC, that was one of the things that I saw as a requirement to switch to PI, is that I had to have a defined length of the engagement, 12 months or whatever it might be. And part of me said, well, my clients are happy with these unlimited engagements. Why do I need to be renewing them? So I'm curious to know if you do renewals, and if actually there's anyone else here. I know that Steph, Growthwise, you guys are using Practice Ignition and you're watching. If you wanted to let us know if you find the renewals beneficial or limiting, or if you would like more options. I'm just a little bit curious, like, why is that there?
I'll let Guy answer.
Guy. Yeah, Guy, why don't you go for it, and we'll see if
Okay.
Steph
So if we think about a contract, so an engagement connecting to workflow, the question is the workflow going to be the same next year? So if you start to think about that, and then think about the services and whether or not you're going to offer the same things in the current year or following year. So the reason we built the end date was to ensure that there was a forced review period, but then also that when the client signs off on the renewal, it'll actually go and do your different workflows. So Blake, you might say otherwise, but I don't think I've ever had a client. It's very rare. We look after very high growth clients in my old firm. So year to year, like everything changes. Like, there's a new entity, there's an increased service, there's a decreased service because they've employed an internal bookkeeper, whatever it is. Some other firms I know, they don't change a lot. So it is a bit of a hassle. So I'll tell you what we have right now. So this is why we built it, because everything connects to workflow, connects to invoicing, payments, and everything. And it's also a really good process to actually go through. I know a lot of firms in Australia, particularly the larger ones, go through and actually renew all their client engagements, even the old school way, because they want to make sure that they're still their accountant next year and the accountant's still happy. The client's still happy.
I cannot imagine having to renew hundreds of client engagements using a manual process. How do you even enforce that? How do you get that done?
Used to take a lot of time. So I worked in mid-tier. It was usually a 4 to 6 week process. The 2 weeks was just reviewing the year that had been and whether or not we made profit and loss, talking about the clients, and then custom building Word docs. Then there was the mailing process. So this is like 2005. So wind back the clock.
Way back in the day.
Way back in the day, we'd send them out, and then we'd have the admin person had to follow up and make sure they all came back in. But the window for that was like 3 months. Right. But we've got to remember we need time and cost. So we build on completion all the time. So we kind of had time. So the guys that were coming in early, straight after the end of the financial year, and to get their taxes done, they would bring their engagement letter when they'd send us stuff. So those guys were fine, but the laggards, it might take 6 months. It was annoying. So what we've got coming up before the end of our financial year in Australia, which is the 30th of June, we'll have a variance on it. So we'll have perpetual proposals, which is unlimited at no end date, but with a review date. So rather than it being a hard stop, we have to change the ability and prompt you to go, okay, do you want the workflow to stay the same when we have this review period? But prompt you to go, you wanted a reminder on this date to review your stuff with your client. Do you want to, in the meantime, kind of like scope creep, the billing and everything will kind of roll on until that review's done, or it will just keep coasting on. But we needed to build in a check for you in terms of, do you want the workflow to stay the same? Because if not, because we're connected to it, like you can just imagine, it's like it just goes on. And then all of a sudden you go, oh shit, this client now has sales tax returns, and you've got to go back, and that won't be part of PI. I mean, we could still backlink it, but it just doesn't make sense in terms of a logical flow. So
one thing I've been thinking about, about is using the renewals feature as sort of a trial period for new clients, because we all know that when we get a new client, things can change, and they often change frequently in the first 3 months, I find. So is anyone out there using renewals for short-term initial engagements and then doing, say, a longer-term one for 12 months? Is that a good idea?
There's a few firms that are doing it. It's not a bad idea. It's obviously a lot of admin. So there's a firm in Perth, and okay, there you go.
Yeah.
You've got Jan over there who does it, but there's a firm in Perth called Rise Accounting Solutions, I think it is, an Australian firm that does just that. So their first engagement with the client, although our financial year runs July to June, they're big on management accounting. And so they kind of do, all right, we're going to do your compliance from July to October. And then we're going to talk about what we're doing this current year. And it usually involves projects in management accounting, setting up systems and all that stuff. So they run like roughly a 4 month and then an 8 month. They're looking at changing that because of what we can do into having them all running sort of simultaneously, because we don't mind how many engagements per client. We just care how many clients have an engagement, to make all that easier. But there's a lot of firms who do that. They do a 3 month trial. They do the rollover. Obviously, the volume isn't as high. So it's like a hard stop date. You have to look at this. You need to get the client to sign on. But to Blake's point, you need to make sure that you're doing that and being really good communicating about that at the beginning. Right. If you're going to say, in 3 months, we are going to look at how we do this and then put you on a monthly plan thereon.
So you all know we are going to do this again next week. We're going to have Guy on again. We're going to keep talking about these issues. I think this is really, really interesting to me, and I hope to you as well. So we hope to see you again next week. I'm not sure if actually, Will, why don't you take us out?
No, yeah, absolutely. What I was going to tell everyone is if you haven't heard of Practice Ignition, I highly recommend that you go visit their website, sign up for, you guys offer a free trial, I think, Guy. Yep. Okay. Thumbs up.
Do.
And so, I mean, take it from me, quite honestly, I literally built an onboarding system. I coded it. We had it developed. I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, what Guy has built is way better than what we had built. It does offer a lot of holistic approach to running a virtual practice, whether you're a bookkeeper or you're a CPA firm. And, if I had known Practice Ignition was around when I built mine, I would not have built it. And so I think what they offer as far as controlling onboarding, controlling renewals, controlling client segmentation, rollovers, data mining. I mean, it's just phenomenal. So, Guy, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day. This is going to be a 3-part blab. So this is part number 1. If you guys go to blab.im/AppShowHQ, you can subscribe right now for part 2 and part 3 ahead of time. They're already there, ready to go. Just go ahead, blab.im/AppShowHQ. Subscribe for Blab 2 and Blab 3. This is going to be a 3-part series with the sexy Guy Pearson of Practice Ignition.
I've got nothing on you, my friend. Will, so I'm not a Blab expert. For the people who are interested in PI, is there a way that we can email out like a survey form to get some feedback? We'd also really like to do some kind of offer for new practices signing up who are watching on this blab.
So well. I can answer that question.
Maybe offline you can let me know. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. No, so the Blab is a very, very new platform. They unfortunately do not have a lot of features in that regard. So the best we can do is say, if you're watching right now, go to practiceignition.com. Guy, if you have a link, you can post it in the chat and people can click on it. But the recording does not have any of the chat in it. So,
okay.
But we can do, we post these shows on our blog. We have a website for App Show HQ. Right. Yeah, so the website for the
so
App
what we'll do is we'll get a code up in the next day.
Great.
We'll give it to you guys if you can put it down there. So it'll be a percentage discount and free customer success agent so that we can help you get started in using PI and make sure you get training for the team and sort of tackle all those hard questions around pricing and things like that. So very keen to help really. So I'm a startup accounting founder, just like Will and just like Blake. And as we are all together right here, really keen and sort of seeing the industry transform. Part of that is why I built Practice Ignition. If everyone's working together to help solve those problems for small businesses for the win. So we want to help you get going.
Oh, and Guy, just to give you fair warning, Bruce Phillips, CEO of my firm, he has a question for you about the API and opening that up. So we're going to put you on the spot next week.
That'll be coming this year. So we're actually just hiring. So it'll be private to begin with. So we do have private integrations available. We'll likely kick off with a few more one-to-one integrations like we have Xero and QBO. We'll also be doing something with Zapier, so you can kind of connect whatever you want to. So there's some forms of products. So I've got a few mates who use Teamwork, for instance, which is a great product. But, out of our customer base, that's only 10 firms. So for us to spend $50,000 building the integration, and just, you're an accountant, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? So thanks to the love, Will. So the idea is what we're trying to do is figure out what's beneficial, and then we'll build the direct connections and really deep integrations with the guys that we know a lot of our customers use, and we'll try and open up things like Zapier and even get a private API available for people who want to build custom and bespoke things, and then eventually we'll get to a full open API.
Awesome. So I'm not sure if I said it. We will put Guy's promo code on our website, appshowhq.com, when I post the transcript of this show. So make sure you subscribe to the Blabs. We'll have it next week as well. And we look forward to seeing you then.
Perfect, guys.
All right.
I'll be
All right,
dialing in
gents.
from Melbourne next week. So different city, different location. Looking forward to it.
World traveler, Guy Pearson.
See you guys.
Bye.
All right. Take care.